seen. But if we change our ways, you told us you would never leave. So then we'll pray for better days, my dear.
Two minutes until showtime.
How high is the heaven, can you climb it? How deep is the earth, can you find it? To the sun, moon, stars, and the sea, seas, well, Israel, go keep on shining. Ye sons of Jacob are consumed, cause y'all won't never change. Here comes our tribulations, I'm waiting for better days. YAH to my Elohim, you sent us to a strange land our fathers never seen. But if we change our ways, you told us you would never leave. Till then we'll pray for better days, my dear. Yehudadin, told YAH to my Elohim, you sent us to a strange land our fathers never seen. But if we change our ways, you told us you would never leave. Till then we'll pray for better days, my dear. Yehudadin. The days come, saith Yah, it won't be said no more that you brought us out of Egypt, but the land of the north.
1 minute until showtime.
Yahweh was my stronghold in the day of affliction. Muslims and Christians gon' witness it's no Christ or Muhammad. Our fathers inherited lies wherein there is no prophet. The sin of Judah is written with the pen of iron and the point of a diamond. The graven images go down in silence. Who are these flying on clouds as doves to their windows, bringing the riches of the Gentiles will always continue to open the gates. Reparations will be set and paid, but you still a slave, so I'm here waiting for better days. YAH to my Elohim, you sent us to a strange land our fathers never seen. But if we change our ways, you told us you would never leave. Till then we'll pray for better days, my dear. Yehudadin, told YAH to my Elohim, you sent us to a strange land our fathers never seen. But if we change our ways, you told us.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trust in you, He always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. But shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down and patient. As a child, all the while I'm waiting. Remember not the sins of my youth. Lead me in your truth, and He'll give your soul ease. The earth shall remain inherited by your seed. The secret of Yah's where who fears Elohim, or who believes everything. And to every word spoken, you can't take heed unless you hear somebody curse. You know you did the same thing. That's why I'm begging Yah for mercy and His love and kindness, cause I know that I ain't worthy. This seven seas. Captivity is taking hold upon me. Put frighten me and now we flee from fallen leaves. The grinding grief from all the blood our people seen. And now we cry, where is the word from Elohim? And so we figure we are as wise to be submissive, but we dismiss it. It is of this reason we have fallen victim to the lies that your root will pray and pursue. Rebellious of the son, forgotten that he is one. Broken the holy ordinance, rejecting the reproof. Then acknowledge what we do. Now we return back to the truth.
Yah's word is the truth. Yah's decrees is the proof. Local 12 just released the scoop. It's the summer of Sam. They calling it Pam. Made us worship the son of man. And somehow that the moon, they stole our style and gave it to Rothschild. Now we exalt the vow, but hit the turnstile. Yah's Nabi set the crooked things straight. Praise Yah from the rising to the evening to the closing the gate. Exposing the fake. God give the truth a daybreak. Now the liars can't escape and the haters can't relate to the light the truth make. See the wicked's pride deflate. Ye adore Yah, magnify Yah, cause he's great.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is, but saying hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous. Yah is holy. And let Yahweh be magnified. Once again, the Creator has blessed us once again on another day that he has allowed us to see. For Yah has brought us through the night once again that we might praise his holy, righteous, and exalted name. And we thank Yah and we praise Yah for his mercy endure forever. My name is Mowreh IshiYAH, YIsraEL, of the house of Israel, located right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1907 Vine Street, bringing you another program of nothing but the truth. And yes, it is true. All we're going to do is tell you the truth. For Yah ordained me to tell you the truth, so this is what I will do. Well, who is this Yah that I speak of? Well, this Yah is the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yisrael, who you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is. Yah is our king. He's our savior. He's our lawgiver, not just of Israel, but of the world. And again, we're going to bring you the word of Yah. This week we have been bringing to you Yah's 7 holy days, which you can find in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And we've been discussing each one individually so you can have a great and better understanding of what the Almighty will have us to do in his holy days. We also have been bringing to you the various times and purpose of these things. The very first holy day the Most High mentioned, not just in Leviticus the 23rd chapter, but also he let us know about this day in Genesis the 2nd chapter. But what was the main reason? The main thing, the number one thing that Yah wanted us to know about his Sabbath day. Well, I'm going to read it to you so you can know. And then you'll see a pattern with the Most High. Again, the Creator said he is well pleased for his righteousness' sake, and he will magnify the law and make it honorable. So let me show you the main thing the Creator wanted you to know about the very first holy day that he had ordained and given his people. And you'll find it in the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter. And this is what it says. In the book of Exodus 20, the Creator lets us know in the very eighth verse, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Little do people know, that's the main thing Yah wanted us to know. To remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Because if you just did that alone, then you will fulfill your purpose in keeping the Sabbath day. You will fulfill the purpose in which Yah gave the Sabbath day to his people. It reads, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yah thy Elohim. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor the stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yah made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore Yah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So we see here the Creator did all these things so that we might remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. The word holy just means set apart, separated, set out from all the other days. He didn't want this day to be like any other day that he had given us, or any day that he has given the world. Furthermore, this is what the Creator said in the book of Isaiah, the 58th chapter. Now, why are we bringing these things to you? Because the Creator said he will send his servants to his people because there's a lot of crooked things going on. And he said, our people are in gross darkness and the world is in darkness. So he said, he will make the crooked things straight, and he will put darkness for light, and he will bring the blind by a way in which they knew not. And so these things have to be straightened out. The Creator lets us know that he's well pleased for his righteousness. The laws is his righteousness. The statutes and judgments are his righteousness. The commandments and the covenants are his righteousness. All these things are the righteousness of Yah. And he's too well pleased to allow it to continually forever be defiled and to be misrepresented. So this is what the Creator said in Isaiah 58. And I'll start reading at the 13th verse. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, holy of Yah, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thy own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thy own words. Then thou shalt delight thyself in Yah, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Yaakov thy father. For the mouth of Yah has spoken it. You can't get any more direct. You can't get any more plain than what Yah has spoken directly out of his mouth. Now, what did Yah say about not keeping the Sabbath day? Did he say, if you go into your enemy's lands, don't regard my Sabbath day? No. Did he tell you, thou mayest not keep the Sabbath day in all the places I might send you? No. Did the Almighty say, you only can keep the Sabbath in the Holy Land? No. None of these words are out of the mouth of Yah. You will only hear these words out of the mouth of people who don't fear Yah. Because why would you put words in the Creator's mouth? Words he never spoke. Words that he never even put in his book. And yet you would dare put words. The Almighty gave us a law for those who continue to do such a thing. And I want you to see what these words say. And you'll read it in the book of Proverbs, the 30th chapter. And this is what it says. For there's no reason to just lie to the people. No reason at all. If Yah said it, then why not we just do it? But if Yah did not say it, and it's not out of the mouth of Yah, and I can assure you, these things are not out of the mouth of Yah at all. Yah never even insinuated, never even suggested, never even hinted that one could break his Sabbath, not keep his Sabbath, or even disregard it, as our people doing today. In the book of Proverbs, the 30th chapter, the 5th verse, it says, every word of Elohim is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. That's why I come before you boldly and with much confidence, because I know I'm telling you the truth. And the reason I know I'm telling you the truth, because all I have to do is read what thus says Yah. I don't have to add nothing to it. I don't have to take nothing away from it. I don't have to fix it up, dress it up. I'm just telling you thus says Yah. And Yah said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Anything else is going against the commandments, the covenant, the law, the statute, and the judgment of Yahweh. Furthermore, we brought to you Yah's second holy day that he will give us and that he mentioned to us. We know the first one was the first one because the Sabbath day is all about his word. All about his word. What do you think we hear on the Sabbath day? His words. All the other days we're supposed to be working. But he set that aside that we might hear his word. The second holy day that Yahweh gave us was a holy day that the Almighty had the death angel come over our houses from heaven. And what did he do on day 2? Well, he made the heavens. No wonder he had the angel come from heaven on the second holy day that he mentioned to our people. And watch what the Creator said about this holy day. You see the number one thing you need to know about the Sabbath day. Well, this is the main thing you need to know about Passover. And you'll find it in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter. This is the number one thing Yahweh wants you to know. Not what I want you to know, but what he wants you to know. And all the things he could have said about the Sabbath day, the one thing he said is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. But watch what he say about the Passover. In the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, and I'll start reading at the 14th verse. And he said, and this day shall be to you unto you for a memorial. And what is a memorial? A memorial is something that you remember. Something he don't want you to forget. And what is the memorial? And ye shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. So the very thing Yahweh wants you to remember about the Passover, he wants you to remember that when you keep this feast, you have to keep it by an ordinance forever. And since he wants us to remember that it has to be kept by an ordinance forever, well, it seemed to me we need to know what the ordinance is. So let us read the ordinance of the Passover. And watch what it says in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, still in the 12th chapter. But we're going to read starting at the 43rd verse. Because now we're talking about the main thing that Yahweh wants us to know about the Passover. In Exodus 12:43. And Yah said unto Moshe and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. This was an emphatic statement that Yahweh made. Here it is. We always want to know about other people instead of ourselves. Can so-and-so eat? Can so-and-so come in? Can so-and-so do this? Can so-and-so do that? And I can assure you, they're not asking about us. When they go to their mosques and their churches and their synagogues and their shrines, and when they're in their country clubs, when they're in their golf centers, they're not asking whether you can come in or not. Trust me. Because if they were, you'd have been integrated many of the places that's still unintegrated. And then when we tried to integrate things, we didn't just ask for permission. We had to be beaten, jailed, and all kind of stuff just to integrate stuff. Places where we were spending big money. And we had to jump through rings. But here, our people, can so-and-so come in? Almighty said, there shall no stranger eat thereof. And then watch what he say next in the 44th verse. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. And our people ain't buying nobody today. Our people are the ones who are being bought. We're not the buyers, or we're not the people that's selling. We're the people that are being bought. 45th verse. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. Yahweh repeated it. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. And we find people keeping the Passover today, they breaking bones, they breaking everything. First of all, they shouldn't even be keeping it because they're not in a place where Yah chose them. We're going to read that. And second of all, if you're going to do it in the place where he chose, the place his name, then you don't even supposed to break a bone. Watch what it says. All the congregation of Yisrael shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yah, that all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. And how do you know these people circumcised or not? One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. Thus did the children of Israel, as Yah commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. So this is the memorial. This is the remembrance of the Passover. This is the main thing that Yahweh wanted you to know about the Passover. Furthermore, in the book of Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter, watch what it says about this ordinance in Deuteronomy 16. Since we're going over the holy days, what's the main thing? Because a lot of people say, well, what's the bitter herbs? Some people say parsley. Some people say this herb. Some people say that herb. Well, I might just say bitter herbs. But that ain't the main thing. The main thing is the ordinance that we just read. And watch what it says here in Deuteronomy 16:5. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which Yah thy Elohim giveth thee. But at the place which Yah thy Elohim shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which Yah thy Elohim shall choose. And thou shalt turn in the morning and go unto thy tents. And so we tell everybody, no, we on the 14th day of the very first month of the year, we don't have lamb. You have lamb all through the year. But on that day, we don't mess with lamb. We don't mess with goat. And why? Because we don't even want y'all to even think that's what we doing. So what we do, we come and we teach and we talk about this great deliverance that the Almighty wrought with our people in the first month, on the 14th day of the first month, coming out of Egypt, where the Almighty delivered our houses. This is what we do. But no lamb, no goat. We might roast some potatoes and some carrots, but we're not roasting no lamb and no goat. Now we're here discussing or going into the third holy day, that the Creator mentioned in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. This holy day is called the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Another great feast day that many of our people are not aware of. And they're not aware of the main thing that Yah desired us to know about this great feast day, such as the Sabbath day, remembering to keep it holy, such as the Passover, remembering that we must keep the feast by ordinance forever, and now the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And I may add, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, this is a totally different feast day than the Passover. And what you're going to see is that this feast day, it not only happened on 2 different days, but it's also happened on 2 different nights. And not only that, it has 2 different meanings altogether. They're not the same. Now, the mass majority of our people, they teach that all this happened in the same night. But it did not. The Passover happened in one night, and then the deliverance from Egypt happened in a whole nother night. The Passover happened in one day, and then unleavened bread was a whole nother day. And I want you to see this. In the book of Numbers, because we're going to read about this unleavened bread, but there's certain points I just want you to see off the back. Numbers 33. Because the Creator lets us know, and I'm going to show you this. Again, I'm going to show you what the Creator said about his remnant and how you can identify, or one of the signs you can use to identify Yah's remnant. And it's written in the book of Malachi, the 3rd chapter, but we're going to go to it so you can see. But this is what it says in the book of Numbers 33. And I'm going to start at the very first verse. What are we discussing this great evening? The 3rd holy day that Yah would give his people. In the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And it was indeed the feast of unleavened bread. And this is what it says. These are the journeys of the children of Israel, which went forth out of the land of Egypt with their armies under the hand of Moshe and Aaron. And Moshe wrote their goings out according to their journeys by the commandment of Yah. And these are their journeys according to their goings out. And 3rd verse, and they departed from Ramesses in the 1st month, on the 15th day of the 1st month, on the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. Here the Creator said, our people went out with a high hand, and they left the morrow after the Passover. The word morrow means the next day. And if you don't know what that next day was, the Almighty said it was the 15th day of the 1st month. Because Yah, he attached dates and times to all these things. Because to every time, there's a purpose to it under heaven. And he wants you to know the time because he wants you to know the purpose. And I can understand greatly why the Almighty did this thing when he did it. In the third holy day, this is what the Almighty did to separate the whole children of Israel from not just the Egyptians, but the world. Moses said to the Almighty, when the Almighty sought to destroy the children of Israel in the wilderness, he said, what is the people going to say? They're going to say, you just brought us out to destroy us. And what about the promise? What about the oath that you made to our fathers? Why are you so angry? Yah, you know these people. You know what you chose. You know them better than anybody. Please forgive their sin. And of course, Yah did. And Yah wanted to separate them because that's what Yah would do at the third time. He will separate you. And that's exactly what he did. He separated the children of Israel that they might be mine. And he sanctified them in the third month. On the third day, it was really the second day of the month, but it was the third day of that month when he would do this thing. But this was done on the morrow after the Passover. And the reason why this is so significant, you're going to see. Because as I stated before, the Passover was on a different day than the Feast of Unleavened Bread, a different night than the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it means two different things all together. And what our people got you doing, this is what they're teaching. At the 14th at Eve, it was the Passover. But as soon as it got dark, it was the 15th, because they believe that a day, now listen to my words, that a day start at night. Now that's an oxymoron. In other words, that's a contradiction. No days start at night. None. Zero. When the night fell and came, they were still in the 14th. It was just night. And it didn't become the 15th until that morning. And we're going to show you that. Furthermore, not only did it tell you that there, but watch what it say in the book of Joshua. And the scriptures say, let every matter be established by two or more witnesses. So this is why I got to do it like this. Because there are people, they will tell you, no, that's not true what Mowreh IshYAH is saying. He's just confused. He don't know what he's talking about. It's not 30 days in a month. Then I'll show him where it's 30 days in a month more than one time. And after showing them more than one time, more than two times, more than three times, that it's 30 days in a month, after showing them that, they stop talking to me because they know they can't show me nowhere where it's 29 days. And they don't even try. And they not going to show you either. And they not even going to try to show you. They just going to talk. But they not going to take you to the word of Yah. Likewise, 12 months in a year. I can show you every month in the book. Every month. And every month is mentioned at least 3 times, at least at minimum. And most of the months are mentioned several times. But every month is mentioned at least 3 times. And Yah wanted it that way because he wanted you to be able to establish his word. But then you have people teaching there's 13 months in a year, and they can't show you one place. But then people will call, and not call me, of course. They will talk to other people and say, oh, Mowreh IshiYAH, he wrong, he this, he that. But all you got to do, well, if he's wrong, you show me then. Where he's wrong. Show me in the book. Show me the word of Yah. Just show me the word 13-month period. And they're not going to do it because it's not there. They're not going to show you a 29-day month because it don't exist. That only exists in the minds and the hearts of our people who have been tricked by our enemies. Now, don't feel bad because we all been tricked by our enemies. So I'm not telling you something that didn't happen to me. It happened to me also. And I'm still learning tricks that we were played with. Still learning them. And why? Because the Almighty's still making the crooked things straight. Watch this in the book of Joshua. Starting at the 10th verse. And the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plains of Jericho. See how consistent Yahweh is? And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover. And what did they eat? Unleavened cakes, parched corn in the same day. Why? Because this was just indicative of the unleavened bread that they ate on the 15th day. And it was the morrow after the Passover. One is the 14th and one is the 15th. In the 12th verse it said, and the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna anymore, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. So the manna ceased on the morrow after they ate the unleavened cakes. And if they ate the unleavened cakes the morrow after the Passover, so they must have did that on the 15th, and the morrow after that was the 16th. Now, why is that relevant? Why is that important? Because every word of Elohim is pure, and he is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee and thou be found a liar. When do you think the manna came to our people in the wilderness? What day did the Almighty rain manna from heaven that our people began to eat manna for 40 years? On the 16th. And you'll find that in the book of Exodus, the 16th chapter. The 15th at eve, that's when they came into, well, let's read it. That way you can see it for yourself. Exodus 15. The manna ceased the morrow after they ate the unleavened cakes, which was the 16th. But when did the manna come? Exodus 16. This is what it says in the very first verse. Because as I told you before, there's time and purpose for everything under heaven. And so Yah put dates and times to the things that he wants you to remember. And they took their journey from Elim, Exodus 16:1. And all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yah in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. In other words, they done forgot all the miracles, they done forgot all the wonders, and they forgot who they were really dealing with. And that's the Most High. And our people here in captivity, they done forgot too. They found out that they was Israel, and after finding out that they was Israel, and they began to read all the wonders, and they began to read all the various laws and all the statutes, judgments, and commandments, and they began to read how awesome and awestruck and powerful the Most High is, and then turn their back. Well, I'm not keeping the Sabbath day. What profit is the Sabbath day in captivity? We don't have to keep no Sabbath day. What profit is there that I pay tithes? There's no profit in paying tithes. What profit is that I be holy? Man, we don't have to worry about that until we get home. Well, we'll see, said the blind man. And watch what it says. Third verse. Or the fourth verse. Because watch what Yah said. Then says Yah unto Moshe, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you. And the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. And it shall come to pass that on the sixth day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moshe and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel at evening of what? The evening of the 15th. Because this is the day they're on, the evening of the 15th. Then ye shall know that Yah hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. And watch the 7th verse. And in the morning, which is the morrow after the 15th, and that's what the word morning too. The word morning is the morning. Every time you see in the scriptures where it says the morrow, it's talking about the morning, the next day. Because that's when the day began. And I'm going to prove to you what I'm telling you is the truth. That the morrow means the next morning in this chapter. We're going to prove it. So then when you go see, when King David say tomorrow is the new moon, he couldn't have been talking about the evening or night. He was talking about the next day, the morning. Watch what it says. 7th verse. And in the morning, then ye shall see the glory of Yah, for that he heareth your murmurings against Yah. And what are we that you murmur against us? And Moshe said, this shall be, when Yahweh shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for that Yah heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurs are not against us, but against Yah. That's why people, man, did you hear what he say, Mowreh IshiYAH? Did you hear what they saying? I don't care what people saying. I know it ain't against me. I'm just the instrument. But their murmurings is against the Most High. And watch what it says. And Moshe spake unto Aaron, saying unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before Yah, for ye have heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yah appeared in a cloud. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, I've heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, at even. So it's letting you know it's not at even yet. Ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am Yah your Elohim. And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning the dew laid around about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. And again, and when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, it is manna, for they wist not what it was. And Moshe said unto them, that is the bread which Yah have given you to eat. And he already told the people to gather for 6 days, and on the 7th day it will be none. But let's get right to that point, because I want you to see this. The 22nd or 19th verse. Well, let's just get to the 21st verse. And they gather it every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted. Now watch this. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moshe. And he said unto them, this is that which Yah have said, tomorrow. And why did he say tomorrow? Because tomorrow is the morning. And the morning is tomorrow. In other words, he could have just said in the morning. Or he could have said tomorrow. Because they are the same thing. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Shabbat unto Yah. Bake that which ye will bake today, and see that which ye will see, and that remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. See, first time he said tomorrow, and now he's saying the morning, because the morning is tomorrow. And all through the scriptures you will see this. So when David said, tomorrow is the new month. Because tomorrow was the new month. Not the new moon, but the new month. Because the new moon don't even come in the morning. You study on that. But I wanted you to see that on the Feast of Unleavened Bread, tomorrow after they ate the unleavened cakes was the 16th. 40 years later. It came on the 16th, and it ceased on the morrow after they ate the unleavened cakes, which was the 16th. They didn't eat no manna ever again. Again, what is this Feast of Unleavened Bread? And what is the main thing that Yah wanted you to know about it? And I'm going to still show you this was not only 2 different days, but it also was 2 different nights. But before I show you that, I got to show you the main purpose, the main reason, the main thing that Yah will have you to observe this day. You'll find this in the book of Exodus. The 12th chapter. Now, it is a truth right before, I'm going to read you Exodus 12, but I want you to see something real quick so I can get this part out the way so you won't be confused. One is in the book of Deuteronomy 16. And this is what it says. But we're going back to Exodus 12 because I want you to see the main thing. We know the main thing for the Sabbath day. We know the main thing for the Passover. But we're going to show you the main thing for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But right before I show you that, I want you to see this. In the book of Deuteronomy 16, the 16th verse, it says, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before Yah thy Elohim in a place which he shall choose, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, in the Feast of Weeks, and in the Feast of Tabernacles. And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yah thy Elohim, which he have given thee. So these 3 times a year we made pilgrimages to Jerusalem. This is where we kept the feast. This word feast is not the type of feast that you're thinking about. When you think of a feast, you're thinking about a feast where you can sing, dance, and party. Well, they did that, but when they use the word feast, it's talking about sacrifice. So it says 3 times a year shall all thy males appear before Yah thy Elohim in a place he shall choose in the sacrifice of unleavened bread. This feast was a sacrifice. And there's only one place that we can sacrifice to Yah, and that was Jerusalem. Why do you think we had to go there for the Passover? Because the Passover was the sacrifice of the Passover. They just put the word feast here, but it actually means sacrifice. You'll also read this in the book of Exodus 34. Turn there. In the book of Exodus 34, '18th verse. The feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, as I commanded thee, in the time of the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib thou camest out from Egypt. And of course, all our males appeared there. Get right to it. 23rd verse. Thrice. Well, 22nd, 23rd verse. And thou shalt observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end, thrice in a year, which means 3 times in a year, shall all your men, children appear before Yah Elohim, the Elohim of Israel. So 3 times a year. So these feast days, we shouldn't act like we keeping these. And then finally in Exodus 23. Verse 14 through 15 or through 16. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in a year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in a time appointed of the month of Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruit of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. And then Yah repeats it. 3 times in a year, all thy males shall appear before Yah Elohim. And of course, our enemies, And yes, they are enemies. They have our people trying to do all these things right here in America and other places that our people have been scattered. Even though Yah say keep it in a place where he chose to place his name. This is what we do when we disregard the word of Yah. This is what we do when we disregard his name. And this is what we do when we don't fear Elohim. Now, but what is the main thing that Yah wanted us to know anyway in the Feast of Unleavened Bread? Now let me show you that. Because what I'm about to read to you, Yahweh do want you to do. And it's in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter. And I'm going to show you what that is. Because then we will have people disregard this. We don't have to do that. Well, let's see. In the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, starting at the 15th verse, and watch what it says. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. In other words, our people didn't live just in no Jerusalem. They lived all around Jerusalem. They lived everywhere. And the Almighty told them, first thing you do is you eat unleavened bread 7 days, and you put all the leaven out of your houses. And why? You're going to see why. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. In other words, the eating of leavened bread has nothing to do with the sacrifice. The sacrifice takes place in Jerusalem. But the eating and the removing of leavened bread is supposed to take place in your house and in your mouth. It is your responsibility. The sacrifice was the priest's responsibility. And watch what it says, 16th verse. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, except that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. And of course, we don't do that. Why? Because the holy convocation had to take place in Jerusalem. We had to make a pilgrimage there. But the eating of the unleavened bread and the removing of the unleavened bread had to be done in your house before you went to Jerusalem. 17th verse. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore ye shall observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. Why? Because this one he brought us out of Egypt. And what is the ordinance of the Feast of Unleavened Bread? Is it the sacrifice? No. Is it the holy convocation? No. Watch what the Almighty say is the ordinance that you're supposed to keep in your generation forever. 18th verse. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether it be a stranger or born in the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened, in all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. How plain can Yahweh get? That is the ordinance of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Remove all the leaven and eat unleavened bread 7 days. And remove the leaven where? From where? Your house. And this people don't even want to do. Hey, we're going to wait till we get home and then we remove it. How you know you're going home? We just remove it from our houses in Jerusalem. You don't even have a house in Jerusalem. You don't even have a house, but where you at? So how you going to remember this in your generation forever? Just like Yahweh said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. How? How do you do that? By not working, by resting, and by coming together every 7 days to praise the Most High. How do you memorialize the Passover? By keeping it by an ordinance forever. Making it clear and abundant that no stranger can eat thereof unless he bought by your money and born in your house. And then if he's bought by your money or born in your house, circumcising. And then the only other way you can eat is that you do it in the place that he chose to place his name. For Yahweh explicitly said, thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover in any of the gates that he has given us. In other words, if you say, well, I'm just going to eat bitter herbs and I'm just going to come together on the 14th and I'm going to have my staff in my hand and my loins girded up and my shoes on my feet all night long, fine. But don't roast and eat no lamb and goat. For that is the Passover. And what is the main thing Yah wants you to remember in the Feast of Unleavened Bread? To eat unleavened bread and to remove it from your house. And not only said that, look in the book of Exodus 13. The 3rd verse. Exodus 13:3. And Moshe said unto the people, remember this day in which ye sacrificed the Passover. No. Remember this day in which you sacrifice the Feast of Unleavened Bread. No. Remember this day in which he came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand, Yahweh brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. My brothers and sisters, how much plain can it get? This day came ye out in the month of Abib. And I noticed the only time it mentioned the month of Abib is when it's talking about the Passover. When it's talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Why? Because you're going to see the word Abib has everything to do with the various weeks that the Almighty will have us to keep next. And we're going to talk about the Feast of Weeks. Then it further says, 5th verse, and it shall be, when Yah shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, which he swore to thy fathers to give thee, a land flowing with milk and honey, that thou should keep this service in this month. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and in the 7th day shall be a feast unto Yah. And as I stated before, we don't keep the first day holy convocation because that's a feast day. That's a sacrifice day. That's a day that had to be done in Jerusalem. We don't keep the feast on the 7th day because that also had to be done in Jerusalem. But watch the 7th verse. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and there shall no leavened bread be seen with thee. And who is thee? You. Neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters. And thou shalt show thy son in that day, saying, this is done because of that which Yah did unto me when I came forth out of Egypt. And it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thy hand, and for a memorial between thy eyes, that Yah's law may be in thy mouth. And what is the sign? The sign is not something we dangling between our foreheads or nothing like that. The sign is the eating and the removing of unleavened bread. That's the sign. Because the people will see, man, why are you doing what you're doing? Not just the people, but the most important people. And who is that? Your sons and daughters. That's who will see. For with a strong hand have Yah brought thee out of Egypt. Thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. And this is what we do. We remove the leaven and we eat unleavened bread for 7 days. And I know those who keep it, they want to know, well, what's leaven? How do we know what's leaven? And we're going to bring that to you and talk to you about that. Because a lot of extensive research has to be done to really identify. Why? Because our enemies, once again, has played a lot of tricks on our people. So now our people are confused on what's leaven and what's not leaven. So we're going to talk about that. Furthermore, Yah still was not finished letting you know, detailing you, for you, the main thing that he wanted you to know and do on the Feast of Unleavened Bread in the book of Deuteronomy 16. Turn there. And we're talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the third holy day that Yah mentions in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, because this is the third one he gave us. So no wonder Yahweh said 3 times a year, all our males supposed to appear before him in Jerusalem, because this is the third holy day mentioned. And this is the very first one that Yahweh will command all our people to come before him with a sacrifice. And you might say, well, what about Passover? We got to appear there in the Passover. All we had to do was appear there for the Passover, to get into somebody's house, to get into a tent, to kill a Passover. But we didn't have to appear at no holy place and bring an offering unto the Most High. You won't even read about an offering on the Passover. Every time you read about the Passover, it'll say, in the 14th day of even, it's Passover. And then it go right into the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Then it start talking about the offerings you got to bring. Don't come empty-handed. But it'll never say that about the Passover, because the Passover was kept indoors. The Passover was kept inside. And as a matter of fact, Yahweh never even called the Passover a holy convocation, a holy meeting, a holy gathering. Because you wasn't even called out on the Passover. You're supposed to stay in on the Passover. But not so with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Watch what the Most High said in Deuteronomy 16, verse 3. This is what it says. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt, all the days of thy life. And there shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coast 7 days. He didn't want it to be seen in your coast. He didn't want it to be seen in your quarters. And he sure didn't want it to be seen in your house. And he didn't want it to be seen on thee. Neither shall there anything of the flesh without sacrifice the first day at even remain not all night until the morning. Speaking of the Passover. So this is the main thing Yahweh wanted you to know about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. He wanted you to know, to memorialize it, to remember it by eating unleavened bread and removing the leaven out of your house. And we're going to show you, and we're going to teach you what that leaven is so you won't be confused. And we'll teach it to you way before you have to remove it. And we're going to bring to you when it is. And we don't have to wait until the night before to show you when it is. You're going to have plenty of time. But I also want you to see this. This is why this thing about the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread happened on 2 different days. They mean 2 different things, but they also happen on 2 different nights all together. And I'm going to show you why that is so important. Because once you begin to memorialize the Passover and you get together and you just want to talk about the Passover and teach about the Passover at the 14th day at evening, and then it gets into the night and you just talking and rehearsing about what Yah had done, the greatness of what Yah had done, because he did this thing on the Passover night. And you'll read it in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter. Look what he did on the Passover night. And this is what it says in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, the 26th verse. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yah's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed their head and worshiped. In other words, we was in the house all night long, and Yah delivered our houses. But not so with the feast of unleavened bread. Watch what the Creator said about that. Still in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, in the 40th verse. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel, who dwelt in Egypt, was 430 years. Now, you have a lot of people out there teaching, Israelites, teaching that the 400-year prophecy of Abraham, that he had a vision and dream, and they say that prophecy was the prophecy of Egypt. So in other words, there is no prophecy about us here in America. There's no start date, there's no end date, and there's no prophecy that any prophet said anything about the 400 years that we've been here in America. In other words, the people who teach this, just ask them, then what is the prophecy talking about us in America? Since Yahweh said he will do nothing but what he first revealed unto his servants the prophet. So who did he reveal? What did he reveal to let our people know that they was going to be in America and how long they was going to be there? Since the 430 years our people sojourned in Egypt was what Abraham was talking about. And we're going to talk about that. Because why? The crooked things got to be made straight. And all that is some more crooked stuff. But watch this. Exodus 40, 12 and 40. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel, who dwelt in Egypt, was 430 years. And you should understand why I say the sojourning, because a couple hundred years of Egypt, we were free people. We were a free people. Just imagine. Joseph went into Egypt at the age of 17. He became ruler in Egypt at the age of 30. You might ask yourself, well, how you know that? Because the book say it. And you know when Joseph died? Joseph died, I think, at 110 years old. That's almost 100 years right there. By itself. That our people not only was a free people, but they had the best land and the best of everything. And then it says after that a king rose up that didn't even know Joseph. And nobody was greater than Joseph in Egypt. How long do you think it took for them to forget about Joseph? Probably another 100 years. But watch what it says. 41. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the hosts of Yah went out from the land of Egypt. That selfsame day, that 430th day, they left. And watch the 42nd verse. It is a night to be much observed unto Yah, for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yah to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. And brothers and sisters, the mass majority of our people, unless you follow the teachings that we teach at the house of Israel, people don't even observe that night at all. There is no observance of the night that Yahweh took our people out of Egypt, except for what we're doing and what we're teaching. Because the mass majority of the Israelites believe that the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread happened in the same night. These was two different nights altogether. One represented us leaving Egypt, and the other night represented what Yah would do to deliver our houses. And this night is a night to be much observed. And I can understand why. Not only it says it there, but watch what Yahweh say in the book of Deuteronomy 16:1. So not only on a Passover night, we come together and we just talk about Yah and how he delivered our houses. Now, the other people come together, but they be roasting and cooking and lamb chops and goats and breaking bones. And then some of our people, I done seen them actually sacrifice goats and lambs, chasing goats and lambs down the street because they couldn't hold on to them. They didn't know what they were doing. And that's a true story. I mean, literally running in traffic. And I'm telling y'all the truth. Not so with us. We just come and just glorifying Yah that night because he's an awesome Yah. And he delivered our houses. But watch what it's saying, Deuteronomy 16:1. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover to Yah thy Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yah thy Elohim brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. No wonder Yahweh said, this is a night to be much observed. And we observe it. We observe the Passover night by talking about it. And we observe the night we were liberated and set free by doing the same thing. We party a little bit on the liberation night, though. Now, our people, how they recognize, they don't recognize this. They don't recognize the day, the night in which we were liberated. They don't recognize. Now, that day, we're supposed to keep as a Sabbath. The 15th day, you kept that as a Sabbath. So we wasn't supposed to do nothing that day anyway, even though it's kept in Jerusalem. But that was the day that you kept as a Sabbath, except what every man must eat. But that night, that's why Yahweh said it is a night to be much observed. Now you can celebrate. And this is what we do. And to show you what you are observing, it's in the book of Exodus, the 14th chapter. Turn there. Exodus 14. Show you why this night so great, so beautiful, so sanctified, that Yahweh says it's a night to be much observed. In the book of Exodus 14, starting at the 13th verse, and this is what it says. And Moshe said unto the people, fear not, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yah, which he shall show you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Yahweh shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod and stretch out thy hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians. They shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his hosts, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Yah when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of Elohim, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all night. And why all night? Because this is when they was delivered. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind
90
all
seconds.
that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand, on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them in the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass
60 seconds.
that in the morning watch, Yahweh looked into the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drove them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for Yah fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, stretch out thy hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, and upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moshe stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians
10
fled
seconds.
against it, and Yahweh overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned, and covered the chariots, and the horsemen, and all the hosts of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day out of the hand of Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which Yah did upon the Egyptians, and Yah and the people feared Yah, and they believed Yah and his servant Moshe. This is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This is the reason why we eat unleavened bread. This is the reason why we remove all the leaven out of our houses, that we might remember this day in our generation forever, that Yahweh delivered us out of the land of Egypt with a strong, mighty, and stretched out arm. This is why we remember, and this is how we remember this day. And just the last scripture is in the book of Deuteronomy 29. And I'm going to show you the significance of not eating leavened bread. Because there's something else Yahweh did in the wilderness. And you'll read this in Deuteronomy, the 29th chapter. Second verse. And Moshe called unto all Israel and said unto them, Ye have seen all that Yah did before your eyes in the land of Egypt, unto Pharaoh, and unto all his servants, and unto all his land, the great temptations which thy eyes have seen, the signs, and those great miracles. Yet Yahweh had not even given you a heart to perceive. In other words, he didn't even give you a heart to understand these things, and eyes to see, and ears to hear, until this day. And this is right before they went in the land. And I've led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not waxing old upon you, and thy shoe is not waxing old upon thy foot. You've not eaten bread, neither have ye drunk wine or strong drink, that ye might know that I am Yah thy Elohim. In other words, when our people was coming out of Egypt, Yahweh didn't want them confused at all. He didn't want them eating bread. He didn't want them drinking wine or strong drink. And until this day, this very day, these are the things that we don't do during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And why? That we might know that he is Yah Elohim, and we have nothing that will alter our mind to know that is Yah. No wine is removed, even though the Jewish people keep it. No strong drink, no bread, no vinegar, nothing leavened. And if Yahweh didn't want that during the time of unleavened bread, you know he didn't want us on no weed. This is the reason that Yahweh told us to remember this day forever. And this is how we remember this day forever. So, until tomorrow, Yahweh love you, so do I. Shalom. I had to throw the weed in there.
To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trusting you, he always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. Put shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down and patient. As a child, all the while I'm waiting. Remember not the sins of my youth. Lead me in your truth, and he'll give your soul ease. The earth shall remain inherited by a seed. The secret of Yah's who fears Elohim, of who believes everything. And to every word spoken, you can't take heed.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.